Part 4. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 31. Chapter 31, Educational Enlightener. Please add it to your collection. In the tent, Subai was writing a diary. It was a little habit he picked up after writing novels when he was on Earth, and he would record it every time he was inspired. Now that he has become a witch, he has to manage 72 people and is the village chief of a tribe. He has to be responsible for even more things. If he doesn't write a diary, he will inevitably forget many things. It can be regarded as reviewing the past and learning the new. Subai writes a diary, but he doesn't write some secrets in it, such as being a time traveler, having a system, the things the system can produce, etc. He would not write these secrets that could reveal his identity in his diary. Instead, he would keep them completely rotten in his stomach. He would never tell them out until he died. Cultural education should be put on the agenda, so when it comes to the choice of Chinese characters, how can we make it easier for tribal people to remember Chinese characters? Subai was writing in the diary, and stopped the charcoal in his hand with some distress. He lowered his head and looked at the words on the animal skin. Writing with charcoal was a bit blurry, and the animal skin was not very easy to use. It seems that the paper needs to be produced, and a replacement for the ink must be found. Subai flicked the charcoal ash on his fingers. The diary he wrote should be used as a family heirloom. The experiences and thoughts in the diary should be passed on to future generations. For example, later generations recorded, Subai was a member of the primitive society. Thinker, educational enlightener, founder of Su family writing. Another example, many readers respect him as Su Shengren, the most holy person, the most holy teacher. After all, the primitive social culture has just been enlightened, and it can leave important traces in history. After all, Subai still found it very interesting. It was considered a bad taste. My fantasy is a bit far. Subai suddenly laughed. It was a kind of joy in suffering. Primitive society is really boring. Yuying was sitting by the fire pit, sewing animal skins, and occasionally raised her head to glance at Subai secretly. When she saw Wu stop and feel a little troubled, she suddenly laughed again. She thought to herself, Wu is really working hard. He must have just solved a problem in the tribe to laugh so happily. Wu, can I come in? Suddenly, a shout came from outside the tent, which frightened the fox-eared lady. She quickly stood up and looked at the wizard. Let them in. Subai nodded and said, with an assistant, there is no need to shout loudly. Yes. Yuying stepped to the door curtain, opened the door curtain and saw Yan Jiao, Yan Hua, and Mei Mang. Huh? Yuying, why are you here? Yan Jiao said in surprise. Wu said he could come in. Yuying said softly. She then added in a low voice, Uncle Yan Jiao, I am here to serve the wizard. What? Yan Jiao shouted in shock. He turned to look at his daughter behind him, his red eyes exuding sharp and kind eyes, as if to say, what's the matter with you? You let someone else take the position of the Miko? It's over. Yanhua. 2 words flashed through my mind. When I saw my father's appearance, he was definitely going to be scolded. Chief, don't keep the witch waiting too long, Mai Mang said to the rescue. Snort. Yan Jiao made a dissatisfied sound in his nose, turned around and smiled reluctantly at the fox-eared girl, and stepped into the tent. Can he not be angry? He thought his daughter could become a witch, but she would have no chance to become a totem warrior. Not having to go hunting allowed him to let go of his worries. But now, the witch actually let Yuying be chosen. If Yan Jiao knew about the candidate for the witch, or his own daughter recommended him to the witch, I am afraid he would be furious. Several people entered the tent. Yan Jiao saw an extra pile of hay in the tent and instantly understood what it was used for. He was secretly worried, who taught Yuying to live in the witch tent? Could it be that Kangxi taught it in advance? Wait for Kang Shi to come back and find an excuse to beat him up to vent his anger. Yan Jiao never doubted that Yu Ying asked to come here. Everyone in the tribe knew that Fox-Ear Girl was very timid and would never do such a bold thing. Ahem, Mai Mang coughed guiltily and saw the chief's expression. As someone who grew up together, of course he knew what kind of person Yan Jiao was. He must be thinking about beating up the person who encouraged Yu Ying to sleep in the witch tent. But that person is him, Mai Mang. In order to thank Wu, he encouraged Yu Ying to live in the main tent, just to take care of Wu conveniently. Wu, thank you for saving me, Mai Mang bowed gratefully. Are you okay? Subai asked gently. It's okay. I'll be fine after just 2 more days, Mai Mang said quickly. That's good. Subai nodded lightly and looked at Yan Jiao with a straight face and Niao Jiao Niang with a bitter face. He asked curiously, Chief, what happened? Call. Yan Jiao let out a long breath, calmed down his emotions, and seriously asked for advice. Wizard, the tribe doesn't have enough containers for boiling water, what can you do? Let's use wooden barrels instead for now. Subai has thought about this problem for a long time. Ah! Barrel, several people present were dumbfounded. Yes, but wooden barrels cannot be used to boil water on the fire. Yan Jiao had a bitter expression on his face, as if he was saying, Wu, stop joking. It's not like putting a barrel on the fire. Subai patted his forehead, blaming himself for not explaining clearly. He explained softly, heat the stone in the fire, and then put it into the wooden bucket of water to boil the water. Is this okay? Yan Hua was very surprised. Can it kill bugs? Mai Mang said in a low voice. Sure, Subai said with certainty. This method cannot be used for a long time. It can only be used as a temporary substitute for boiling water. When you have time, try burning pottery. That way you can promote eating methods such as stewing meat and soup instead of monotonous barbecue. Great, I'll tell everyone right away. Yan Jiao said quickly. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 32. Chapter 32, It's too easy to be satisfied. Please collect. The night is getting darker, and everyone in the tribe has already finished the work of concave eye and convex groove, and they all went to rest. In the main tent, the firewood was burning brightly in the fire pit. Yu Ying was dozing off, the animal skin clothes in her hands had slipped from her legs and fell to the ground, her head was pounding, and her fox ears were bent sleepily. Finally finished the painting, Subai looked at the animal skin drawing on the stone table and stretched. What he was going to do tomorrow had been drawn in advance. He turned to look towards the fire pit and saw the fox-eared lady dozing off. Shaking his head in amusement, Subai got up and walked towards the fire pit. Subai came to Yu Ying's side, gently took away the half-sewn animal skin coat, put one hand on the fox-eared girl's shoulder, and moved the other hand from her bent legs. He passed through it. He picked up Yu Ying with a little force, walked gently to the hay bed, bent down and slowly put down the fox-eared girl. Subai turned around and glanced at Yu Ying, and found that her long eyelashes were trembling and her fox ears were standing up, so he knew that she was awake. In order to avoid embarrassment, he did not reveal it. He pulled the animal skin next to him and covered the fox-eared girl's belly to avoid catching a cold in the middle of the night. It's almost 11 o'clock now, right? Subai murmured to himself, walked to his bed of hay, and lay down slowly. Hoo-hoo, Yu Ying's breathing became a little rapid, her eyes opened slightly, and she breathed a sigh of relief when she didn't see anyone. She turned her head slightly, opened her pink eyes completely, and then looked inside the tent. She relaxed completely when she saw Subai lying on the bed of hay. Wu hugged me just now, Yu Ying thought shyly, her cheeks red. When Wu put her on the bed of hay, she had already woken up. At that time, she was confused and did not dare to move at all, pretending Zoe is sleeping. Wu is so gentle. Yu Ying covered her face with her hands and turned over on the bed of hay. The girl's heart was stirred, making her feel uncomfortable and longing at the same time. She couldn't sleep at all, and her mind was full of witchcraft. She couldn't help but fantasize about the way the witch hugged her. Then, she worried about why she fell asleep. Would it make the witch think she was not a qualified witch? No one can explain the feelings of the tribal girl. Sometimes, an action, a word, or even a look can make her think. On Earth, as a novelist who stayed up late to code, how could Subai go to bed so early? In addition, now that his perception has become more sensitive, he can hear clearly. He heard the sound of the fox-eared girl rolling over. He squinted his eyes slightly and thought with a smile on his lips, it seems that my behavior just now made her feel distressed. The fox-eared girl in the primitive society of another world is really cute and cute. Interesting. With inexplicable expectations, Subai fell asleep unknowingly. Time passed slowly, and the night became deeper. Cannot fall asleep. Yu Ying opened her pink eyes and stared blankly at the roof of the tent. She touched her belly, looked sideways in Subai's direction, then carefully got up and tiptoed towards the tent. She walked towards the door curtain, looking back as she walked, for fear of waking up Subai. Yu Ying came out of the tent, glanced around, found a direction and walked towards the outskirts of the camp. She came to the edge of the camp and waited quietly. "Why are you still up so late?" Yan Hua's crisp voice sounded. The figure emerged from the bushes and came to the fox-eared lady. Tonight she was patrolling, mainly responsible for the interior of the tribal camp, keeping an eye on the major tents to prevent the enemy from sneaking in. Or in the middle of the night, some lustful and impulsive men will sneak into women's tents and do embarrassing things. The patrol is divided into inner and outer circles, and the outer circle is usually in charge of totem warriors. The inner circle is in charge of female totem warriors because of the shortage of personnel. Because of this, Niojiao Niang, a preliminary totem warrior, joined the patrol. "Me, I woke up from being suppressed." Yu Ying blushed and stammered. "Go ahead, I'll keep an eye on it for you." Yan Hua rolled her eyes, knowing that fox-eared lady was lying. Normally she wouldn't stutter when facing her at night. Yu Ying came behind a tree and slowly squatted down. "How does it feel to be a Maiko on your first day?" Yan Hua leaned against the tree and looked up at the starry night sky. "Sizzling. I had a very fulfilling day today," Yu Ying said in a soft and waxy voice. "Has the witch ever reprimanded you?" Yan Hua crossed her arms and felt inexplicably unhappy when she thought of her father's rage not long ago. "What's wrong with not being a witch? I just want to be a totem warrior." Yu Ying pouted her mouth and said, dissatisfied witch. "He never scolded me, he was very kind to me." "Yeah?" Yan Hua curled her lips and said, not knowing why she felt a little irritable. "Yes." Yu Ying stood up, packed up and came out from behind the tree. There was a shyness on her lips. "Wu gave me 4 pieces of barbecue today. That can only make you half full." Yan Hua said angrily. "I am already very satisfied," Yu Ying said softly, stepping forward to the Niojiao Niang. "Go back to sleep." Yan Hua waved her hands angrily. "I'm leaving first, please be careful when patrolling." Yu Ying smiled, turned around and walked briskly into the camp. "Really, it's so easy to be satisfied." Yan Hua looked at the fox-eared lady's back and sighed, "I really envy such a character." She turned around and entered the bushes, walking along the trees, climbing up a tree from time to time, scanning the entire tribe with her eyes to see if any girls were out for convenience. Asking for evaluation votes, asking for flowers, and asking for monthly votes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 33. Chapter 33, New Aid Sign In. Please collect. Wow. Subai was awakened by the sound of pouring water. He opened his eyes in confusion and turned his head slightly to see the fox-eared lady pouring water into the stone pot. He asked lazily, is it already dawn? Ah, Yu Ying was startled by the sudden sound, and the barrel in her arms almost slipped. When she saw it was Subai, her cheeks turned red for no reason, and she said in a soft voice, the sky is already a little bright. It looked like it was around 5 o'clock in the morning. Subai looked up at the top of the tent, and could see a glimmer of light through the gap. The tents of the Yanlong tribe were all cone-shaped, with a spit on the top to exhaust smoke from the fire pit inside the tent. Wu, did I disturb you? Yu Ying asked timidly. Fine. Subai waved his hand and said softly, I'll sleep a little longer. Good. Yu Ying responded quickly, her hands and feet became much lighter, like a kitten preparing to steal something. System, sign in. Subai closed his eyes and gave instructions with his mind. Ding. Sign in successfully. Open the aid package. Ding. Congratulations to the host for getting primary aid, a portion of chili seeds. Well, Subai was stunned for a moment, and didn't react until he felt a small bottle of something in his palm. He raised his hand to bring the object to his eyes and found it was a transparent glass bottle, the size of 2 fingers, filled with chili seeds. I just said yesterday that the flavor of the meat was too bland, but now when I opened the bag, there were pepper seeds. Subai complained in his heart, there are only seeds. It will take 2 months for me to harvest the peppers. The next second he thought, he was in a different world now. The climate here is different from the earth. Maybe he could harvest peppers earlier. It will be better when some grain seeds can be planted. Subai was in a good mood. He liked getting familiar assistance, especially assistance related to the sustainable development of plant seeds. He put the glass bottle into his pocket and found it time to experimentally plant some pepper seeds. If you go down, you can eat fried pork with chili pepper. At dawn, everyone in the tribe woke up and gathered in the open space in the center of the tribe. Everyone, finish your meat quickly and set out early to finish your work, so that everyone can come back early. Yan Jiao's loud voice resounded over the tribe. Subai also heard it, and had no choice but to get up, and then saw the back of the fox-eared girl. She was about to walk out of the tent. The chief was so noisy that he even disturbed the witch to sleep. Yu Ying pouted and muttered, preparing to go out and ask Yan Jiao to keep his voice down, so as not to disturb the witch's rest. Xiao, where are you going? Subai asked curiously. Yu Ying froze, turned around quickly, and said in a soft voice, I want them to keep their voices down. No, I've already gotten up. Subai smiled and waved his hand. Wu, do you want to eat barbecue now? Yu Ying asked softly. Don't worry, I'll brush my teeth first. Subai shook his head and said. It has been 6 days since he came to primitive society, including the 3 days he was in a coma. He has not brushed his teeth for too many days. There is no dentist in this world. If the teeth are decayed or broken, it will be miserable. Do you need to brush your teeth? Yu Ying was a little confused. It was the first time she heard that she had to brush her teeth. Of course you have to brush your teeth, otherwise you will get toothache, and all your teeth will fall out before you reach old age, Subai said with certainty. Ah! Will all my teeth fall out? Yu Ying covered her mouth in fear. Teeth should be cleaned regularly and kept clean, so that bacteria will not breed and make holes in the teeth. Subai came to the fire pit, bent over the edge of the fire and picked up a piece of cool charcoal. What are bacteria? Yu Ying asked in a harsh voice. It's a kind of invisible insect, Subai said in an easy-to-understand way. We also have bugs in our mouths. Yu Ying's face turned pale, the fur on the fox's tail stood up, and her whole body seemed to be electrified, making people feel uncomfortable all over. Don't worry, these little bugs are different from those in raw water and will not harm human life. Subai couldn't explain too much, so he could only make up some words to reassure the fox-eared lady. Tooth decay will definitely endanger people's lives. If the teeth are necrotic and unable to chew, the diet will be unbalanced. Over time, it will definitely be dangerous. Life. Which, How do you brush your teeth to get rid of the bugs? Yu Ying asked timidly. She didn't want her teeth to be drilled, and she didn't want to lose all her teeth very early. When the tribal life gets better in the future, she still has a lot of things she wants to eat. Just get some charcoal. Subai crushed the charcoal, dipped the charcoal ash in his index finger and wiped it from his teeth. That's it. Yu Ying followed suit, found charcoal, crushed it, dipped her fingers into the charcoal ash and stuffed it into her teeth. The two of them brushed their teeth with the charcoal ash with their fingers, looked at each other and smiled. They saw each other's mouth was dark and a little bit funny. Wu, can I come in? Yanhua shouted outside the tent. Come in, Subai responded. The tent door curtain was opened, and the horned lady's head poked in. Her red eyes saw the appearance of Subai and Yu Ying, especially their mouths were full of black liquid. Are you poisoned? Yanhua's face turned pale with fright, and her head immediately shrank away. Wu and Yu Ying were poisoned, and both vomited black foam at the mouth. She was cold all over, her steps were a little messy, she completely lost her usual calmness, and she couldn't imagine what would happen next. What happened down here? I could only run quickly to find my father. In the tent, Subai and Yu Ying were still a little confused at this time, and they saw the confusion in each other's eyes. Poisoned? Who was poisoned? Asking for flowers, asking for evaluation votes, asking for monthly votes, and asking for support. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 34. Chapter 34, The transformation of the tribe is imminent. Please collect. Father, Father, Yanhua shouted from afar and ran towards Yanjiao, where he was about to enter the forest. What's wrong? I was in a panic early in the morning. Yanjiao frowned and scolded. I don't know who you are like, you have such an impatient temper. Hey Ya and Digwa looked at the chief with strange eyes, as if to say, you still have the nerve to tell others. It's bad, something serious is bad. Yanhua's face turned pale, and she trembled as she said, Wu and Yu Ying were poisoned. What? The expressions of Yanjiao and Heiya changed drastically. Whoa! Bang! Several figures set off a gust of wind and sand. They suddenly rushed towards the main tent, and the ground was cracked. As soon as Yanhua's eyes were dazzled, he discovered that his father, Black Teeth, and the other totem warriors were all gone. When she turned around and looked over, she only saw their backs covered with totem patterns, as fast as they were flying. Why? Wait for me! Yanhua shouted and ran to follow her quickly. Wu, please don't let anything happen. Yanjiao's face was full of murderous intent, and he was very anxious inside. He couldn't imagine the scene after Wu's accident. How could a witch be poisoned? Absolutely no one came near the tribe last night, Digwa said with certainty. Could it be that I ate the wrong thing? Heiya said worriedly. The new wizard doesn't know a lot of common sense, and he doesn't even know some simple plants. Stop guessing and go see the witch, Frog Ming roared in a low voice. Several people rushed to the door of the main tent and suddenly opened the door. They saw Subai and Yu Ying had just finished rinsing their mouths with water, and their expressions looked like they were poisoned. Subai looked up at the people, chuckled and said, Good morning. Have you had breakfast? Early, Yanjiao responded dully. Wu, are you okay? Heiya asked straightforwardly. What can happen to me? Subai spread his hands. He knew that Niojiao Niang must have misunderstood just now, which attracted several anxious people. Not poisoned, Digwa blinked his eyes and asked. I'm fine, how could I be poisoned? Subai rolled his eyes. Hoo, Yanhua panted heavily and finally came outside the tent. Then why did Ahua say? Yanjiao suddenly couldn't speak anymore. He suddenly turned around and looked at the bewildered Niojiao Niang, his expression becoming more and more charitable. Father, how is Wu? Yanhua asked anxiously. Look by Yuzulf. Yan Jiao gritted his teeth and got out of the way, revealing Subai behind him. Eh? How could it be okay? Yan Hua was shocked and turned to look at the timid fox-eared lady. She was also full of energy and there was no sign of poison at all. Snored. How? Do you still think something is wrong with Wu? Yan Jiao squinted his eyes, his palms were a little bit eager to move, and he wanted to give his daughter's head a father's fist blessing. The bear's daughter owed and dared to lie to them. Daughter has a meal. Ha! How can it be? Yan Hua instantly understood that she must have misunderstood something. I remembered, I still have to go on patrol. When she saw the unkind looks in her uncle's eyes, she said haha and ran away. I'm so angry. Who does such a naughty daughter look like? Yan Jiao cursed in a low voice. He, hey ya, de Gua, and Frog Ming looked at Yan Jiao with a sneer. No matter what you look at, she definitely doesn't look like me. Yan Jiao glared angrily, turned around and walked away with twitching eyes. Ahua's temperament is similar to that of the chief when he was a child. He Ya calmly added the finishing blow. Stop talking and get going, Frog Ming said quickly. Wu, let's go connect the hollow wood. De Gua bowed and saluted. Be careful, Subai warned seriously. Yes, several people responded. Haha, it's so funny, Subai laughed. Wu, will Sister Ahua be okay? Yuying asked worriedly. Subai tilted his head and said uncertainly, it should be fine. Whoa. The tent door curtain was suddenly opened, and the horned lady looked at the two of them with her resentful red eyes. Sister Ahua, didn't you go on patrol? Yuying asked blankly. Ha ha ha, Subai was teased again. Yuying, you have done me a disservice. Yan Hua said with a sad face. Yuying blinked and asked cutely, Uncle Yan Jiao, I'm not going to hit you on the head again, am I? For sure, I'm going to hide here tonight, otherwise my father will deal with me. Yan Hua said dejectedly. She thought about how embarrassing her father had been just now. With his unreasonable character, at least a scolding was inevitable. This, Yuying glanced at Subai secretly, not knowing how to answer. If it were in the past, Niojiao Niang would seek refuge with her if she knew she was going to be punished, but now she lives in Wu's place and has no right to take in Yan Hua. Well, after Yan Hua finished speaking, she knew that she had said the wrong thing and was about to take it back. Okay, we are also responsible for letting you get scolded, Subai said softly. Eh? Is it really possible? Yan Hua's red eyes widened, and she was about to say just kidding and take her there, but she didn't expect Wu to actually agree. Subai nodded. He didn't think it was a big deal. It wasn't like he was sleeping with him. Very good. Yuying was very excited, happy that Niojiao Niang had escaped a scolding. Yes, Yan Hua suddenly felt a little embarrassed when she thought about sleeping in a tent with Wu at night. Get ready to have breakfast and get ready to work, Subai ordered. There are a lot of things to do today, and the transformation of the tribe is imminent. Yes, Yuying hurriedly responded, preparing the barbecue with dexterous hands and feet. The new book has been signed. Please support it by voting for free flowers, evaluation votes, monthly votes, and book reviews to leave your suggestions. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 35. Chapter 35, The Wailing Thing. Please add it to your collection. Breakfast is still barbecue, plus some wild fruits brought by horned ladies. Subai only ate a palm-sized piece of barbecue and a few salon fruits, but he couldn't eat any more. Wu, you need to eat more. Yan Hua's cheeks bulged, and she said in a vague voice, eat more meat to become stronger. Just try some wild fruits. Yuying nodded in agreement. She also had her mouth full, but the meat in her mouth was stuffed by Niojiao Niang and Subai. You guys eat, I'm full. Subai shook his head, missing the green vegetables a little bit. The tasteless original barbecue will make him feel tired if he eats too much, especially since he comes from a big gourmet country on the earth. It is easy to go from frugality to luxury, and from luxury to luxury. It's hard to be frugal. The beast ear girls eat so happily, it's the taste they remember, and barbecue is the most delicious. Then we ate them all. Yanhua asked tentatively. After seeing Subai nodding, he immediately divided the 2 skewers of barbecue that were being grilled. I don't want, just when Yuying was about to refuse, she opened her mouth and was stuffed with a skewer of barbecued meat, and she started chewing it subconsciously. I said no, but my body was quite honest. Subai looked at the fox-eared lady with a smile. Yuying was shy and lowered her head, chewing the meat faster. How many people are still in the tribe now? Subai asked softly. Yanhua bulged his mouth and said vaguely, there are still 39 people in the tribe. Swallow the meat first before talking. Subai's mouth trembled slightly. Goo. Yanhua swallowed the meat in his mouth, wiped the corners of his greasy mouth with his sleeve, and said the remaining people in the tribe are the elderly, children, people with inconvenient legs and feet, and reserve warriors them. In other words, there are only 33 people in the tribe, which are the main labor force. Subai asked helplessly. There are also 6 of our preliminary totem warriors. Yanhua was a little dissatisfied that Wu ignored her, and then said there are still some totem warriors who have retired. They can still do some handicrafts. Take me to have a look first. Subai decided to conduct an on-the-spot investigation. Okay. Yanhua got up and walked outside the tent. Xiao, take the animal skin picture over there on the stone table. Subai ordered. Good. Yuying obediently ran to get the animal skin picture. As soon as Subai came out of the tent, he saw Maimang standing next to the tent and a young man next to him. Wu, what do you want me to do? Maimang said quickly. Don't worry, is he your son? Subai asked curiously. Yes, my son Mai Mao is 21 years old this year and is a preparatory totem warrior. Maimang raised his hand and slapped his son on the head, scolding, why don't you salute the witch quickly? Wu, thank you for saving my father. Maimao quickly bowed and saluted. He looked nothing like Maimang. He didn't have the chubby face of his father. Instead, he was very skinny, like a bamboo pole. You have already thanked me. I like the hide very much. Subai waved his hand and said to Maimang and his son, you don't have to stay here, I won't leave the tribe today. Yes, Maimang and Mai Mao responded in unison. Let's go, show me around the tribe first, Subai said to Niojiao Niang. The first 2 times, he didn't observe the tribe at all. He just glanced at it in a hurry. This time, he had to read it carefully before he could plan how to transform the tribe. Yes. Yanhua led the way and said, the witches and totem warriors live in the middle of the tribe, and the old people and people with bad legs and feet live on the periphery of the tribe. She glanced at Subai, as if she was afraid that he would misunderstand something, and then explained, totem warriors live in the inner perimeter, mainly so that they can rush to the witch immediately after a crisis. The old people voluntarily live in the periphery. They say they do not want to add burden to the tribe. Subai's black eyes flickered. There are classes everywhere. The stronger the people, the better they live and the better they eat. This is obtained in exchange for ability. It's good to be able to take care of some elderly people. At least he has not been abandoned. After all, this is a primitive society, not a modern society with well-established systems and laws and good welfare. He has no ability to change it now, so he can only keep it in mind for the time being, and improve the old man's life in the future, so that he can at least have enough food and clothing. The 3 of them walked around the tribe. It stinks and is so messy. Subai frowned and glanced at the ground of the tribe. He could see some feces and bones, and there was a sour smell in the air. He felt that it was time to clean up the tribe's hygiene, so as not to breed some bacteria, especially the buzz. The squawking flies are so annoying. In different worlds, flies are still annoying. Yanhua and Yuying both lowered their heads in embarrassment. Some of the bones thrown on the ground were also thrown by them. Subai glanced at the two of them, scanned the surrounding tents, and asked, "How many children are there in the tribe?" He could sense that there were gaps in some tents, and someone was secretly watching his every move. And there is no malice in the eyes, most of them are curious eyes. 17 children, all under the age of 14. Yanhua said softly. So many children, Subai said in surprise. There were actually 17 children in a tribe of 72 people, which was a bit surprising to him. When the Black Snake tribe attacked our Yanlong tribe, the old witch asked people to save the children and women who were pregnant first. Yanhua's face turned gloomy and she gritted her teeth and said, "But only these children were rescued. As long as there are children, the tribe will have a future," Subai said solemnly, respecting the old witch even more in his heart, thinking that the old man was leaving seeds for the Yanlong tribe. Huh? Why are those mud kids who are like egg-stealing monkeys not making trouble today? Yanhua said in surprise. She glanced around with her beautiful eyes and didn't see the children playing the totem warrior game. The egg-stealing monkey is a hybrid ferocious beast that loves to infiltrate other people's nests and specializes in stealing some ferocious beasts. The cubs and eggs. Egg-stealing monkeys are very smart and can hit the ferocious beasts with stones to lure away the ferocious beasts guarding the eggs and cubs. They are considered by people in primitive societies as a symbol of mischief. Don't worry, they won't have a chance to cause trouble in the future. Subai raised the corners of his mouth and said softly, "Next, take me to meet the best carpenter." "Why?" Yanhua stepped forward to lead the way and asked curiously, "Which, do you want to discipline these children?" "They just lack homework." Subai said, "something that will make the children whimper in the future." Operation. Yanhua was a little confused about what this was. "You will know later." Subai smiled mysteriously. No one in the tribe could escape. Please vote for reviews, flowers, monthly votes, and support. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 36. Chapter 36, The Stonecutter. Please collect. Mysterious. Yanhua muttered, wondering if all witches are like this. It's always hard to guess. Subai's ears moved, and he heard the muttering of the horned lady, and shrugged helplessly. It's not that he wants to remain mysterious, but even if he says it, the beast-eared girls won't understand it. If he has to explain it from beginning to end, then let him go. Here we are, one of the two tents in front is for carpentry. Yanhua said, pointing to the simple tent a few meters away. Clang bang clang bang. What about the other tent? Subai could hear the sound of something being knocked inside, a very steady and powerful sound. That's where stonecutters polished stone tools, Yanhua said in a clear voice. Oh? First go and see the stonecutter, Subai said softly. He came to primitive society and didn't know how stone tools were polished. Clang bang clang bang. The three of them approached the tent and heard the banging sound getting louder. When Subai came to the tent, he saw that the ground was covered with gravel, and there were 7 or 8 head-sized stones on both sides of the tent door. Uncle Hill, the witch is coming, Yanhua shouted into the tent. The names of the people in the tribe are very simple. They are named after their teeth and their favorite color, or they are named after the mountains, rivers, and trees in nature. Clang. The sound of banging stones suddenly stopped. After a few seconds, the tent curtain was opened, revealing a low figure, only about 1.3 meters tall. This, Subai's black eyes trembled, and the curiosity on his face disappeared, replaced by solemnity. Hill's face was so gray that his appearance could not be seen clearly, and his short hair was covered with brown stone powder. The most impressive thing is that he has a pair of broken legs. The lower half of his calf has completely disappeared, and what replaces him for walking is a pair of bulging muscle arms, which are simply thicker than the thighs of ordinary people. Wu, why did you come to a place like this? Shan Shan grinned, showing his big yellow teeth, and said in a hoarse voice, if you have anything to do, just ask someone to come and tell me. Subai reluctantly twitched the corner of his mouth, showed a stiff smile, and said, I have never seen how stone tools are polished, so I just want to take a look. He really couldn't laugh. A disabled person is doing one of the hardest jobs in the tribe. If Wu wants to see it, he can come at any time. Shan Shan moved his arms flexibly. This was the first time a witch came to him. Even in the tribe's ancestral land, the old witch had never been to his stone room. That's bothering you. Subai stepped into the tent and saw only stones. There were 20 or 30 pieces of large and small ones. The only empty space was from the tent door curtain to the central fire pit. Wu, I'm a little confused here. Shan Shan scratched his head in embarrassment. Fine. Subai glanced around and said softly, introduce it to me. Good. Shan Shan nodded quickly, supported the ground with his arms flexibly, came to where he was polishing stone tools, and picked up a palm-sized stone. He said seriously and focused, such a large stone can be polished into a spearhead, or into a spearhead. Catapult. Shan. Shan put down the stone in his hand, pointed to the long stone not far away, and said that piece is a good stone, without any stone eyes or cores. It can be polished into a good stone knife. What are stone eyes and stone cores? Subai was gradually attracted and felt that there were many ways to polish stone tools. Stone eyes are cracks in stones. The stone core is the acne of the stone. Some stone cores are harder than the stone itself, and some are relatively brittle, which greatly affects the solidity of a stone. Shan talked about stone tools and said clearly the most troublesome thing is the stone core. If a stone has a stone core, it is not durable at all and will break after a few collisions. Primitive society had no iron tools, only stones as weapons, and had developed a unique culture. How many days does it take to polish that stone into a stone knife? Subai asked curiously. It will take about 2 days. The texture of the stone is relatively easy to find and it is not difficult to polish it, Shan Shan said confidently. It takes so long, Subai said in astonishment. It took longer than he thought. Wu, it's not that long. Yanhua has been with Subai for a long time, and she also knows that Wu is a person with little common sense. She explained in a clear voice, it is very time-consuming to polish a good stone knife. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4 days. Only with the skills of Uncle Shan Shan can one polish a good stone knife in 2 days. It's not as good as Huayetu said. It also depends on whether the stone is polished well. The hills are a little embarrassed to be praised. The next time was spent in questions and answers, and Subai also spent a while watching the hills polishing stone tools. Okay, I won't delay your work, Subai said softly, and wanted to go to the carpenter's side. Shan Shan put his arms on the ground and stood up to send Wu off. When he saw Subai coming to the door curtain, he suddenly said, Wu, do you want to the stone I polished? I also polish bone tools, Shan Shan added. Subai turned to look at Shan Shan's expectant eyes, raised the corner of his mouth and said, then I want a stone knife and choose the best stone. Yes, it is definitely the best stone, the hill shouted excitedly. Then I'll wait and see, Subai said gently, and stepped out of the tent, feeling better somehow. He glanced at Niojiao Niang, and said softly, let's go, take me to see the carpentry. Yes. Yanhua led the way. Subai was walking and suddenly asked, what's going on with the legs on the hill? His legs were bitten off by ferocious beasts. Yanhua pursed her lips and said in a low voice, Uncle Shan Shan used to be a totem warrior. Later, he broke his foot and became a stonemason. I can feel that he was a very strong warrior. Subanan feel the rich energy and blood on the hills. If nothing happens to Uncle Hill's leg, the position of chief may not necessarily belong to my father. Yanhua spread her hands and said. What a talent, Subai nodded. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 37. Chapter 37, Ancient Loom. Please collect. Tread. Walking, Subai stopped and almost bumped into the fox-eared girl who was following behind. Woo, what's wrong? Yu Ying asked softly. You can ask someone to make 3 pieces of palm-sized animal skin, overlap them and sew them together, and make 2 vines on the side, just long enough to be tied to the back of the head. Subai carefully described the appearance of the original version of the mask. He thought of the scene when stone powder was scattered when polishing stone tools. Without any protection, Shinshin's lungs would sooner or later have problems. Okay, I remember that. Yu Ying nodded quickly. You ask people to make a few more and then send them to the hill. Subai thought of some people on the other side of the earth who stubbornly didn't wear masks, so he gave some more advice and said, just tell him that I gave it to him, and let him wear and polish the stone tools, so as to protect his lungs. Okay, alright, Yu Ying Ruanino responded. Yanhua's red eyes flickered, staring blankly at Subai's side face, inexplicably feeling that he was more approachable. Ministry of Witchcraft leader has always made people feel very awe-inspiring, and he is also very mysterious and does not pay attention to trivial matters. But now Subai's behavior has completely overturned Niojiao Niang's shamanic and serious look in her mind, making people feel closer to her. What are you thinking about? Subai saw Niojiao Niang looking distracted. Ah, Yanhua regained consciousness, a touch of red appeared on her cheeks, turned around and said the carpenter's tent has arrived. Strangeness, Subai muttered. The 3 of them walked around from the back of the tent to the front of the tent, and saw an old man waiting at the door. Which the old man bowed and saluted. Elderly people don't have to do this. Subai quickly stepped forward and supported the 70-year-old man. He did not abandon the virtues of respecting the elderly and loving the young brought by the earth. Wu, this is Grandpa Gumyu, the best carpenter in the tribe, Yanhua introduced from the side. Gumyu looks old in his 70s, with deep wrinkles on his face left by the years. His hair and beard are all gray, and the most eye-catching thing is that the white beard has still stained with a lot of sawdust. Wu, what you asked Yanhua to tell me to make yesterday has now been completed. Gumyu's old voice was full of vitality, not like an old man in his 70s at all. He had heard the movement on the hillside for a long time, and knew that the witch was coming, so he had been waiting outside the tent. Okay, take me to have a look, Subai said gently. Come on, Gumyu was very enthusiastic and took the lead to enter the tent. Subai stepped into the tent and saw a different side from the hill tent. It was not very dirty. Except for the sawdust on the ground, the wood was neatly placed. The area around the fire pit is very clean. Here's what you need to do. Gumyu turned around and brought in a large wooden tube half a person's height, with a width and a diameter of 2 palms. So big, Subai was stunned, looking at the huge filter with his mouth slightly open. Big? If I didn't have big wood here, I would definitely make a bigger one for the witch. Gumyu always feels that he is not big enough. No, this is enough. Subai quickly stopped him and said. He originally wanted to make a palm-wide filter, but he didn't expect it to be larger than he imagined. Wu, is there anything else you want me to do? Gumyu asked expectantly. In the tribe, witches are the hardest to get in touch with. People who can help witches will make others feel envious, which is also an affirmation of ability. Yes, today I want to trouble you to build a few things. Subai waved to Fox-Ear Girl. Yu Ying quickly stepped forward and handed over the animal skin picture she was holding in her arms. That's great, as an old man like me, I almost have nothing to do. The dense crow's feet at the corners of Gumyu's eyes spread instantly. Come, take a look and ask me if you don't understand anything. Subai handed over the animal skin picture. Okay, let me take a look. Gumyu raised his hand to take it, lowered his head and looked at it carefully. Subai saw Gumyu's hand. The back of his hand was as rough as the bark of an old pine tree, with cracks and cracks. There were several thick calluses on his palm. He was an experienced old wood craftsman. 10 minutes later, Gumyu finished reading. He pointed to a picture of animal skins and asked which. The table on this picture is very simple, but what is next to the table? It looks a bit weird. Gumyu has made many tables, but after moving from his ancestral land, Wu never let him make a table. This is called a chair. It is used for sitting. It is the same as the table Subai introduced. This is a chair with a back. No wonder Gumyu found it strange. There was no such thing as a chair in primitive society. They would just get a stone and cover it with animal skin, or get a piece of wood, or just sit on it directly. On the ground. A chair for sitting on. Gu. Mu frowned and thought, and suddenly said, then the table needs to be made higher. Yes, Subai nodded in agreement. It's really inconvenient without a table and chairs. If Wu is in a hurry, I can make it tomorrow, Gumyu said confidently. Don't worry, this can be fine for a day or two at night. Subai shook his head, pointed to another animal skin map in Gumyu's hand, and said seriously, the things on this map will be more urgent. Gu. Mu glanced sideways at the things drawn on the picture, which were just a few pieces of wood that needed to be punched. He grinned and said relaxedly, this is not difficult to make. I can make one in half a day. Okay, let's do this first. I want 10 copies. Subai breathed a sigh of relief. What he wanted Gumyu to make was a loom, the oldest kind of loom, which can be assembled with just a few pieces of wood. The time before leaving the Spotted Deer Tribe's market does not count. Today, there are only 6 days left, and there are still 3 days to travel, leaving only 3 days for the Yanlong tribe to prepare. If the materials for making linen can be found in the next 2 days. And to make a loom with high technical content, based on the technology of primitive society, would take at least 2 days to operate, which is simply not enough time. And a good loom, in the current urgent few days, might as well choose 10 simple looms, mostly hand-woven linen, are suitable for temporary transition. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 38. Chapter 38, Ferocious beasts will stun if they smell it. Please collect 10 portions. No problem, Gumyu agreed immediately. The first portion will be a little slower. Once he is familiar with the method, the time for making one portion can be shortened by half. Don't work too hard and take breaks, Subai warned, fearing that if the old man worked hard, his conscience would be uneasy if something happened. It's okay, I'm not tired at all doing these things, Gumyu waved his hands and said. He was still a little touched deep in his heart. Few people would care about him, a lonely old man. Wu, don't underestimate Grandpa Gumyu. He carries all the wood here by himself from the mountains, Yanhua said in a clear voice. She knew that the elders of the tribe were very strong and were afraid that others would think they were useless, and they always liked to do something to show off their strength. Oh, Subai was surprised, and then he saw Niojiao Niang blinking at him and giving him a hint. He understood it after thinking about it for a moment, and said softly, Mr. Gumyu, please help me make 24 when you have time. Wooden box, no lid needed. How big do you want it to be? Gumyu asked without thinking. Subai glanced around, pointed at the filter and said, it's probably as wide as this. In primitive society, there were no specific weights and measures at all, and everything was done at will by hands-on people. He felt that he should plan the weights and measures when he had time in the future, so that they would be more convenient to use. No problem, Gumyu responded immediately, as if there was no such thing as rejection in his place. Okay, then I won't bother you, Subai breathed a sigh of relief. Now he only needs the materials to make linen. Don't bother me. Why don't you stay a little longer? Let me introduce you to the carpenter. Gumyu said quickly, wishing that Wu could stay here and chat. Grandpa Gumyu, Wu still has a lot to do. Yanhua made a sound to come to the rescue. Will Wu come over again when he has time? Gumyu looked forward to it. Good, Subai responded immediately and then stepped out of the tent. Yanhua held the filter and followed Subai out of the tent with the fox-eared girl. Then they came to the open space in the center of the tribe. A few days ago, a witchcraft ceremony was held. The wooden platform used for the inheritance ceremony is still standing well. Yanhua, let everyone in the tribe who is free and able to move around gather here, Subai said softly, starting to assign tasks to the people of the tribe. Yes, Yanhua responded quickly, turned around and stuffed the filter into the fox-eared girl, and then ran towards the tent. She raised her chin slightly and shouted in a clear voice, "Everyone who has nothing to do, please come out, Wu has something to say." Subai saw the fox-eared lady holding the filter obediently, covering her whole body, only revealing a pair of fox ears on the top of her head and a pair of feet below. He said, "Funny, you don't have to hold it all the time, put things away. Just be there next to it." Good, Yu Ying responded softly, leaning the filter against the high platform. "Wu, do you have anything to give me?" Mai Mang appeared with his son and quickly came under the high platform. "Well, let's wait until everyone is gathered," Subai nodded. "It's time for the tribe to transform and add some infrastructure." Good, Mai Mang stood nearby with a wheat spear. People from the tribe came out of the tent one after another. The most conspicuous ones were 17 children, 7 grandfathers and grandmothers, and Gumyu was also inside, and 5 women who were pregnant with babies, and 4 disabled people, including Shan Shan. "What is the witch trying to do? I heard that Wu left the tribe yesterday." "No, what if something happens to Wu?" "Pooh! Don't be so foul-mouthed. How could something happen to the witch? I guess it's about the water source. Yesterday I heard the totem warriors talking about how they seem to have found a new water source." Everyone was discussing in low voices, looking at the figure on the high platform from time to time. "Is everyone here?" Subai asked the fox-eared lady in a low voice. "No, there are still 4 reserve soldiers who are not here. They should be at the training ground," Yu Ying replied in a soft voice. As soon as she finished speaking, 5 people rushed over not far away, and the leader was Yanhua. The 4 people Subai looked at were 3 boys in their 20s, one with Niu Jiao, a girl about the same age as my mother. "Wu, everyone is here," Yanhua said with a slight breath. Subai nodded, and the horn girl stood beside him obediently. He glanced at everyone, his expression gradually became serious, and the people below the high platform began to become silent. "Everyone, our tribe has been worried that there is too little water. We can't even take a bath. Everyone's body is full of sour stench. I'm afraid that the ferocious beasts will faint if they smell it." Subai started speaking with humorous sentences. "Ha ha ha," the people in the tribe were amused, looked at each other, and moved away slightly with disgust. "Now we have solved the water problem." Subai looked at the slightly agitated people below and said with a serious face, "The hollow wood we asked everyone to deal with last night is to transport water to the tribe." "Impossible? How can water be so obedient?" "The witch said there is a Shwila tribe, that means there is a Shwila tribe. That is, witches have never deceived us." Occasionally, people who have some doubts are refuted by those around them. Especially the young children looked at the witch with admiration and longing. "If it's early, water will reach the tribe today; if it's late, it won't be until tomorrow." Subai didn't follow to connect the hollow wood. He didn't dare to say anything. This would hurt his prestige, especially since he had just taken over the position of witch. "Great, we can take a shower like before. Finally, I no longer have to save water. The witches are so powerful. They went into the mountains and forests yesterday and solved the water problem today. Yes, he is indeed a witch." As they spoke, everyone praised Subai, and there was a hint of recognition in everyone's eyes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 39. Chapter 39, Tribal Cleaning. Please collect. Sudbai stood on the high platform and saw everyone's eyes. Was that a look of recognition? Maybe, but not to him, because everyone only recognized his identity, just because he was a witch, and not Sudbai himself. To put it bluntly, if an idiot takes the position of a witch, everyone below will blindly agree with the prestige of the Yanlong tribe that has been managed by generations of witches. When Sudbai was on earth, he was a proud person at heart. Despite his gentle appearance, he was actually more arrogant than anyone else. He just restrained himself at ordinary times and felt that there was no need to be arrogant to his friends. If he was facing an enemy, maybe being gentle would be enough. Become an iron-blooded means. Yesterday, he convinced the totem warriors Flamehorn and Black Fang. So, what he wants to do today is to make everyone in front of him recognize him from the heart, not because he has inherited the identity of a witch. After the water is available, do you want to take a bath? Sudbai shouted with the corners of his mouth raised. Yes, everyone responded in unison. So before taking a bath, should we clear away the tribe's garbage? Sudbai raised his hand and fanned in front of his nose, and said disgustedly, do you want to stop smelling the stench on your own body after taking a shower, and instead smell the stench of the tribe? Yes, the tribal ground is too dirty. It's all the fault of these egg-stealing monkeys kids who pee and poop everywhere all day long. I wanted to say it a long time ago, but those totem warriors also threw bones everywhere. SHH. Say less. Everyone talked and talked about the totem warrior, and then they all muted when they saw Mai Mang staring. These talkative people, the corners of Mai Mang's eyes trembled, and he stared at those people with squinted eyes, and decided to throw bones in front of their houses at night. Everyone, please take action to clean up the dirty things in the tribe to welcome the arrival of water, Sudbai shouted in mobilization. Yes, everyone responded in unison. The crowd began to disperse, and the idlers went back to their tents to get tools and clear out the garbage. They couldn't be allowed to grab shit with their hands. Woo, what do we do? Mai Mang raised his head and asked. Dig a hole, the tribe needs 4 toilets and 4 bathing rooms, Sudbai said softly. What is a toilet? Mai Mang didn't understand a little bit, but the bathroom guy did understand. It's where you poop and pee, Sudbai explained. One of the reasons why the tribe is so smelly is that children and some people with limited mobility defecate everywhere. The solution is to add 1 or 2 toilets. Wouldn't it be better to find a small forest to solve the problem? Mai Mang said, a little confused. This is dangerous, Sudbai rolled his eyes. The groves in primitive society are pure wilderness. Who knows what kind of dangers are hidden in the trees? Woo, tell me how to dig it. Mai Mang didn't ask too much, just follow the witch's guidance. Sudbai raised his finger to point to the direction and said, dig 2 toilets and 2 bathing rooms on the east and west sides of the tribe, all of which must be separated. Men's and women's toilets and shower rooms cannot be close to each other. Give it to me, Mai Mang said happily, taking his son Mai Mao to dig a toilet, leaving Yanhua and 4 reserve soldiers behind. Woo, what do we do? Yanhua asked in a clear voice. You are responsible for digging a reservoir so that the water can be retained when it comes, Sudbai said softly. Can dirt hold water? Yanhua blinked her beautiful eyes and asked in confusion. Treading the soil firmly will reduce the rate of water loss and achieve a certain amount of water storage, Sudbai said softly. If the reservoir is not dug, the water will flow away faster. Understood. Yanhua nodded obviously and prepared to lead people to dig the reservoir. Ahwa, just let 2 people go. You can bring someone back to chop some wood, Sudbai ordered. Okay, Yanhua, like a big sister, instructed the 2 men to dig a reservoir. By the way, I have to cut some longer weeds back so that I can build a hay house. Sudbai wanted to use a hay house to replace the animal skin tent. Animal skins were really scarce. There were no extra animal skins to build toilets and bathhouses. He could only find other alternatives. As long as the hay piles were large enough and organized. Can also block rain and sunlight. Leave it to us. Yanhua said seriously, leading the remaining two people into the nearby woods. Let's go and pick a place to build a classroom. Subai stepped down from the high platform and started walking around the tribe. Yes, Yuying hurriedly ran to catch up. After running 2 or 3 steps, she suddenly thought of something and turned around to go back and pick up the filter. Put it somewhere first, Subai chuckled. Yuying nodded with her cheeks flushed and followed obediently. Subai was walking in the tribe and saw everyone working hard to clear away the garbage on the ground, especially some children who were very diligent and twisted some large leaves into funnel shapes as bags. Come to hold the bones. He came to the place where Mai Mang and Mai Mao were digging the hole. The two were digging the soil with wooden sticks. After Mai Mang saw Subai, he stopped and asked, how are we digging? Not bad, but for safety reasons, the walls should be hammered down a little stronger, Subai pointed out. The toilet he wants to build is exactly the design of a rural latrine. When the time comes, wood will be placed on the pit so that people can squat on it for convenience. Okay, Maimang nodded and decided to hit the cave wall with his fist a few more times later. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 40. Chapter 40, 3 meals a day. Seeking for collection. The tribe is undergoing transformation in full swing, and changes are visible to the naked eye, especially the ground is much cleaner and the stones have been cleared away. Stack the dried feces and bones separately. Don't throw them around. Put those branches over to the firewood pile. Don't expand the reservoir anymore. Just dig it deeper. You can fill the ground with some rocks and compact the soil. A ditch must be dug in the bathroom and the water must be drained out. This water cannot be used anymore. Subai kept walking, staring at several facilities in progress, fearing that the upright tribesmen would not change. Just like the two preparatory soldiers digging a reservoir, they thought that the bigger the reservoir, the better, so they worked hard to expand it without thinking about whether the water source was enough to fill the reservoir. The purpose of the reservoir is to store water at night when everyone rests at night. And if the water during the day does not flow into the reservoir, it will be absorbed by the tribesmen and used up. Drink water. Yuying held the water glass and jogged to Subai's side and handed it over. Just thirsty. Subai took the water glass and drank it in a few sips. Wu, do you want some water? Yuying asked in a soft and waxy voice. No. Subai shook his head and looked at the Niojiao Niang and others who were moving wood out of the woods. He looked up at the sun in the sky. It was probably around 1 or 2 o'clock, and noon had passed. Everyone must be hungry, Subai murmured to himself and walked towards the horn girl. There are no 3 meals in the tribe. Most of them only have 2 meals a day, one at 10 o'clock in the morning and one in the evening. Yanhua threw down the wood on his shoulders, saw Subai coming and asked quickly, do you have anything to tell me? Let everyone take a break. Subai shook his head and looked at the piles of more than 30 logs and the piles of weeds several meters high. Wu, we are not tired. Yanhua wiped the sweat from her forehead and said in a hoarse voice while it's still dark, come back with more wood. Okay, let's take a break and drink some water. Subai waved his hands emphatically. Yes, Yanhuaxin responded warmly, and turned around to tell everyone to take a rest. Niojiao Niang shouted crisply, let everyone take a rest. When the people in the tribe heard that they could rest, most of them laughed, especially the children who cheered for joy. After all, everyone was tired and hungry. I hope the water will come today, and everyone's hearts will be soothed after a hard day's work, Subai murmured to himself. Maimang strode over and said hoarsely, the 4 toilet pits have been dug. You should also take a rest and drink more water. Subai looked at Maimang's pale face. He was seriously injured just yesterday. The blood loss has not been replaced yet. Today he has to do heavy work. Not tired, this little thing doesn't tire me at all, my Mang said nonchalantly. Going into the mountains to hunt is tiring and dangerous. It is common to track a ferocious beast for a whole day. Take a break, I have something else for you to do later, Subai said softly. He looked at the wheat spear digging a ditch for the bathroom and asked curiously, how old is your son this year? He looks too thin. He is 21 years old. Maymang's chubby face softened, but his tone was very irritated. He just doesn't eat much meat, so why should he save some meat for me? Do I need him to save some meat? Subai fell silent, understanding that the totem warriors were also frugal, and if things continued like this, the Yanlong tribe would only become weaker and weaker. He looked at the children in the distance and said softly, most of those children are undernourished. If there is enough food, the tribe should implement a 3-meal system, so that the nutrition of the people in the tribe can keep up. Woo, 3 meals is too difficult. I am satisfied if I can eat 2 meals. Maymang shook his head after hearing this. Even the totem warriors have to save their food and divide the amount that can be eaten in 1 meal into 2 meals. It will keep everyone well fed, and the tribe will get better and better, Subai said firmly. Well, I believe in witches. Maymang nodded heavily. After Yanhua came over, he asked curiously, what are you going to use these wood for? Mainly to set up a classroom, Subai said softly. Not much wood is used to build toilets and bathrooms, but classrooms require a lot of wood. What is a classroom? Yanhua tilted her head and was a little confused. It is a place where everyone can learn to read, Subai said gently. The animal skin tent is too small, and there is also a big problem with the brightness. Literate? Maymang's eyes widened in astonishment, and he lost his voice. Do you want to teach everyone how to read? He has been a totem warrior for more than 10 years. He has been to many other tribes and knows more than the Horn Mother. Of course he knows the importance of words. Well, only with writing can there be inheritance and everyone will become smart. Subai showed a bright smile, thinking of what the orphanage director said when he was on Earth. Studying is the only way out, and it is also the only way for people to start without being completely pulled away by others. Great, our tribe is finally going to have its own text. Maymang was extremely excited. He remembered that he had gone to other tribes before and saw some strange patterns carved on the wood outside the house, but he didn't understand anything and made many jokes, which became a thorn in his heart.